This is Rumor Control. Here are the facts.
Welcome to Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast. I am your host, Jaime and Patrick, and I'm joined by my partner and co-host,
Patrick Green.
This is another entry into our Rumor Control series, and there's some breaking news today that we thought we should cover. So, and I woke up at 7 in the morning, Los Angeles time. My eyes take a little bit to kind of open, and when I'm looking at my phone, it's even worse. So I'm like this. My
alien crack out? What the fuck?
And I was reading like this response in our Perfect Organism staff group text thread, and people were responding like, what are they talking about? And then I went to Variety, actually dropped the news, and then of course 2 hours later the official Alien page dropped the news of a new game, a new mobile game called Alien Blackout, featuring Amanda Ripley and her adventures in a Weyland-Yutani space station and running away from the alien in the space station. And so it's interesting. I have some thoughts about it, but what do you think?
Yeah, well, I'll give a quick little rundown in case people aren't familiar with all the details about what's happening, just from the actual developer website. So the description is: the terror of Alien is brought to life in Alien Blackout. Try to stay alive while trapped aboard a crippled Weyland-Yutani space station carrying a deadly xenomorph as it tirelessly hunts you and the crew. Outsmart the perfect hunter by making perilous choices. Players must rely on the damaged controls of the space station or risk sacrificing crew members to avoid deadly contact, permanently altering the outcome of the game. It says that it has 7 levels, and you are remotely guiding Amanda Ripley's crew through increasingly challenging tasks. And it says that it's a unique, fear-inducing horror premium mobile game experience. Blah, blah, blah. It says some of the features are survive or die using the limited power supply to operate a holographic map. That it is canonically a new chapter in the Alien franchise that follows Amanda Ripley between the films Alien and Aliens. And that it's a first-class experience designed for mobile gaming, and that it is scary, and you can go back to the beginning and replay it multiple times. And we can kind of end the summary there. I have a shitload of thoughts on this. But the first thing that I want to point out is that I actually think this is a great idea, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think that regardless of whether it is or it isn't, this is not some enormous announcement. This is not the Cold Iron Studios game. This is not the shooter that we know is in development. This is not the rumored Isolation sequel that may or may not come. It's part of a continuum of products that are focusing around Amanda Ripley, who I think in the wake of Isolation has emerged as a real fan favorite character. And we've seen her in Defiance. We've seen her in, it's a figure that was released by NECA. We've seen quite a lot of Amanda Ripley. And I think fan response to that character has been pretty good. I know we have a lot that we can talk about with, other thoughts about her as a character and what she represents. But I think it's a chance to see a new storytelling angle, and it's a new device, and it takes some of the interesting mechanics that you kind of have to rely on in a mobile experience. It's not as easy to control. It's not, the processing power isn't the same you would get on a console or a PC. So it's kind of a limited thing, but at least it's not like they're trying to make some sort of a fully fledged, 3D shooter game only in a mobile experience. And it's also not like Diablo Immortal, which was a catastrophic press release, which I'll get to in a moment. But before I do, what are some of your thoughts, Jamie, on it?
Well, first of all, because I'm not a gamer, everyone knows this. I was actually talking with our friend Aaron Percival today. I really appreciate Isolation. I have played a little bit of Isolation, but the world that it sets up is awesome. And I know Aaron was saying that there was a demand for Amanda Ripley, and I told him I haven't seen that demand, but I also don't play games, so I wouldn't know at the same time if there's a demand for her character. As games go, I don't think much of well, first let me ask you a question. How does mobile gaming work? Do you have to walk outside and walk around with it, or do you play it on your phone?
So that's a really good question, because a lot of the press releases are clarifying that this is not a Pokemon Go experience. Okay. So what you talk about is Pokemon Go, and there's also a Jurassic World game.
That's what I was sort of thinking. I was like, who's going to go outside and run around thinking they're Amanda Ripley?
Horrible.
Yeah.
Although I have to say that there was the VR book that came out a couple of years ago. Do you remember this? where you can like have it comes with these things you can scan, and then you can have your phone project these like and that was pretty fun, you know, so that could have worked. But yeah, those geotagged games like that are like a completely different experience than this. What I liken this to, actually, and part of why I think this could be a good idea, is the virtual reality, the VR pinball Alien vs. Predator game. That like every single element of that should be not exciting, right? Like a freaking pinball mobile game based on the AVP films, right? Like that sounds terrible. And that game is amazing. People absolutely love it. If you haven't played it, seriously, if you're watching this video and you have not picked up, I think it's VFX Pinball or something, it is awesome. It is, there's a chapter on Alien, there's an isolation chapter, there's AVP stuff, there's like all these different world building devices, and you're playing, you know, pinball on a mobile phone, but it's actually an immersive storytelling fun experience. So why I think that works is because I think it's honest to what it is. What it is not Alien Isolation, right? What it is not, you know, 2010 AVP. What it is a really limited creative application that's suited for a mobile game where you play it while you're taking a dump, or you play it while you're, you know, waiting for somebody to show up to an appointment. You check in and out for 7 minutes, and it's not a big deal. What it looks like to me from the screenshots and from some of the things that I've read about it is that Blackout is basically taking its mechanic cues from the control panel sequences in Alien Isolation. There are these control panels located throughout the Sevastopol in Isolation where you can reroute power and reroute things to affect other parts of the ship, or, you know, to turn off air purification, or to reroute power to certain doors, which open other doors. And it's basically like a series of these kind of small, hard decisions that you can or cannot make that allow you to advance through the game, and usually also set yourself up for potential danger, depending on which difficulty you're playing. So what it looks like this Blackout game is basically that mechanic, but writ large on the scale of an entire space station. So you're rerouting power, you're opening access doors, and you're remotely guiding people on a mission where you're not physically present in it, but your decisions are affecting their survival. So why I think this reminds me of the pinball game a little bit is that it's honest to the restrictions of the system for which it's written. Right? It's not this crazy immersive shooter. It's a game that's simple, that can run quickly, you can check in and out of, and you can replay a lot, and it uses one mechanic and just plays with it as a storytelling device. One more quick thought on that, and then I'll toss it back to you. If some of you might remember the Alien Alexa, the Amazon Echo game that came out back in April for Alien Day, which I still love. I've played that many times. I have a bunch of like hand-drawn diagrams of different routes that I've taken. I think that's a really fun game. Is it a life-changing experience? Of course it's not. It's a fucking Alexa game where I just, you know, talk about which door to open. But it immerses me in the world of Alien in a transient but enjoyable way, and it gives me another anchor point into the mythos where I can use my imagination and check in and out. And it's honest to the medium that it is, which is a voice-activated home assistant that can also play an Alien game, you know? So I think if this were coming out in place of the Cold Iron Studios game, I would be furious. If this were coming out as instead of another movie, I would be furious. If this were coming out as like the shooter that people have been talking about nonstop, or even worse than that, as the sequel to Isolation, I'd be furious about it. But it's none of those things. It's part of a read, play, watch experience centered around Amanda Ripley that is building the mythology up and giving us a chance to check back into the Isolation world that's universally beloved, and keep things going in the midst of a lot of transition at Fox, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I would probably certainly agree with you. I mean, it's difficult again for me to even form an opinion on something that I will never play. And I don't ever really think about Isolation. I don't think about those games, even though Isolation is great and much respect. And I know there's
It's funny because I think about Isolation not every day.
Well,
maybe,
I don't play it though. That's the thing.
I know.
But
even though I haven't played it for months.
But you've played it though. I haven't.
Yeah,
I've played a couple of moments. Right. I mean, I think about Isolation maybe in the terms of the world it recreates and how specific the detail is, and how much attention they paid to detail, and how enjoyable the environment of Isolation is in times that I have played it. I think I have a little bit of a problem with the setup for the mobile game. Just there's an alien who's on a space station. That's not really what Alien's about. Alien isn't about an alien loose from point A to point B. I think that's a trope, but it's a game, so it's okay. It's okay that it's a trope.
And not only is it a game, it's a mobile game, you know?
Yeah.
It is like the low-hanging fruit of mechanics and storytelling.
Totally. So
like if it's well done, if it's a premium title that they put some money into, and it is what it says it is, and it's not anything more than that, it's just a good way to engage with Alien, then like it's a success.
Totally. You know? And there's a whole, we have a whole generation or generations of fans who are on their mobile apps all the time. They play games, they play Isolation. This really will speak to them. I mean, maybe if you don't want to buy it, don't buy it, don't play it, whatever, that's fine. I know that there's been some pretty extreme reactions to this news. And I've kind of been reading the reaction, people pretty upset about it, but I'm like, it is what it is. I was saying that it is what it is. I mean, I think it's one drop in a series of announcements that are coming this year, and I think this is probably the smallest drop, the smallest announcement. It's not a big deal. It's not just this game-changing thing. I think it's hard. Alien fandom is in a hard spot, and it's been in a hard spot, even though it's kind of getting easier to navigate in terms of what we love and what we don't love, and being able to talk about things. We're still in this PTSD mindset, and I think everyone wants something to really love, and we have these expectations of something grand, and something's coming. Oh, it's a mobile game. People are thinking, well, maybe could it be a streaming series? Could it be a web series about Amanda Ripley? I'd watch a web series on Amanda Ripley, no joke, no doubt. For sure.
Oh yeah.
I have some issues with her as a character, not so much her as a character, and we can maybe talk about this a little bit, but I think she is a little bit too relied upon, and I think for me, give me Ripley, don't give me Ripley. That's it. Like I don't. But me saying this has nothing to do with the game. It's just the character. And I was talking again.
Well, I think we should unpack that too. I mean, the game fits into that totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to point out though, you mentioned the announcement aspect of this, and they've been very specific on their Instagram posts and on Facebook and on Twitter that there's this Amanda Ripley read, play, watch thing, right? There's even a hashtag for that. And if you look at the trailer for Blackout that was dropped today, you'll see the play is highlighted in green, right? And read and watch are not. So they're being as clear as they possibly can that this is not the only thing that's going to come out, right? So this is not like the big 40th anniversary Alien announcement, but there are at least three things happening around Amanda Ripley. And this fits into those three things, Looking just at the read material, we know for a fact that there's a number of things coming out centered around Amanda Ripley to some degree that have to do with this. One of them being Resistance, which drops in a matter of weeks, which is illustrated by the wonderful Tristan Jones, who's done some amazing work with Aliens, Defiance, and other properties in the past. So that's coming out in a few weeks, actually right around the same time that this game drops, which is January 24th. And then we also have the Isolation novelization coming out, which is a pretty big deal and an interesting licensing choice, I think, that they're commissioning this novelization of a video game that came out 4 years ago. Now I think that probably speaks to other things coming this year as well, and that is currently being pushed back, but it's coming out. So there's definitely some read things on the horizon as well. And then watch, of course, is the one that we're all buzzing about, because that could take so many directions based on what we know and what we don't know and what we know we don't know. But whether it be the streaming series, whether it be some sort of an animated series, or whether it be a film announcement or the short film competition, or there's a lot of different things that this could be centered around. But we know that Amanda Ripley is at the middle of it, right? So Amanda Ripley is definitely getting a push. I think there are good things behind that and there's bad things behind that. But I want to give it back to you for a second. What are your thoughts on her as a character and what she kind of represents with an Alien?
To be honest with you, and this isn't even a slight to whatever. There hasn't ever been much there. In fact, I was talking about this with Dan, who's our partner on Shoulder of Orion, because he's a big Alien fan. He played Isolation. It's when I played Isolation was with him.
And he's going to come on as a guest pretty soon.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. A crossover episode.
And I just feel like Amanda Ripley right now is Fox's answer to Ripley. No one got Blomkamp
to her own mom.
Yeah, like no one. Like I think the message was pretty loud and clear that a lot of fandom wanted Blomkamp. That story's over. It's done. We're not even talking about it anymore. But I feel like they're like, well, she's a Ripley. I feel like she's a faux Ripley, not the real Ripley. But I'm not saying she can't be interesting. I'm not saying she can't be. I just want a new story. I'm just tired of being connected to Ripley. I'm tired of this like. And I think it's also just kind of this fatigue of these, how do I put this? We've had Shaw, they killed off. We've had Daniels. She wasn't very effective. Now we have Amanda Ripley. I don't know. Well, let me say this. In the form of a game, Isolation, maybe a book, maybe an animated web series, that's great. That's fine. If that's where you want to keep her, I don't think she's a good enough character to give her own show, her own live action series, nothing. And it's not something that I want to see. No, I'm not saying because I don't want to see it, that means no one should see it. And we'll touch on this at some point another time, but to me, this just kind of, it moves me towards this conversation that we've been having. Alien needs a reset. Now, I think that there's a lot of things coming. Alien Day is going to be a big day for us. It's going to be...
There's a shitload coming.
It's a 40-year anniversary of Alien. There's a lot coming, things that we don't even know about.
Which is why I'm saying if this were the only thing, then I would be upset about it.
And I think people are fearful that this is like, oh, this is it. This is it. This is what you're... But at the same time...
But those people, if you're watching this movie and you're one of those people, you have to know that this is not it.
Yeah.
Don't worry. It's going to be good. We got tons of stuff coming, some of which we can't talk about, but we know some details of. There's a lot coming down the pipeline, and this is just one little fun thing that you can either do or not do. But don't be upset. It's going to be good. We got a lot of shit.
And I think it's just, again, I think as good a place as we are in fandom, or I should say a better place than we were in 2017 and post-release of Covenant and all those things, people are sensitive and they're skittish, and it's a small community. It is a small community. And reading a lot of the reaction to the news, I think people are just disappointed that it's not something, not so much that it's just a game, but that it's just a game. People, I think, are just, they want something to believe in. They want something
I think it's not just that it's that it's a mobile game.
Yes.
I really think, I don't think the disappointment, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I don't think the disappointment is even the storytelling or the fact that it's Amanda or anything. I really think it's just that it's a mobile game.
I agree.
And I do want to give a little bit of perspective on this. There was a kind of a huge faux pas that happened, I guess 3 months ago now, where Blizzard, who's one of the most legendary game developing studios ever, they're behind Diablo, which is one of the big franchises. And it's been a long time since we've had a new Diablo game, and it's been one of those hyped about mythologized things. So they go to the biggest conference of the year, and they announce Diablo Immortal, and everybody just loses their mind. They're so excited about it. And then they announce that it's a mobile first game, that it's a mobile game. And it's like such a bad decision, I think, on there, because they're framing it the same way Apple framed it when they got rid of the headphone jack, that it was like brave, that like this is what the market wants, like this is where it's going. And now we're sitting here 4 years later, and I'm still pissed off I can't plug my fucking headphones into my iPhone. It's the same thing. Like, but the difference here is that, for one thing, there are other games in development. So it's a moot point to begin with. But also, Diablo is a PC first, console second, hardcore game franchise, where the people who play it sink 300 hours into an installment of the game. They play it for years and years on end, and they return, and those servers are still active, and it's a huge thing. That's not what this is, If we found out that the Alien Isolation sequel game had been announced and it had been hyped, and we've been looking forward to it for 7 years and getting these teases, and then they came out and they said, oh, it's only going to be out on our phones, then that would be a huge letdown. But that's not what this is. And the last thing I'll say is that there was a pretty famous moment at the conference where they announced Diablo Immortal, where one of the developers sort of got upset that he was being booed and said, like, what, you don't have mobile phones? And so it's become kind of this catchphrase. So you might be seeing that in some of the comments.
Yeah, there's already memes like, what, you don't have phones?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I'd love to
right.
see a video of that, the Diablo news. I think it'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. It's great.
I will.
It's great.
I think
I was really upset about that.
But
I've
I
been
think
looking forward.
part of not disappointment. I think I agree. I think really people aren't disappointed that it's Amanda Ripley, or even that it's just. It's the new year. It's the reset. It's 2019. It's 40 years after Alien has been released. It's a banner year. Something's coming. Something's coming.
Yeah.
And I think. But I think at the same time, it's a hard place for the studio. Fox is just about merged with Disney. The merger is just about done.
Like as of 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, I think so. Although I'm not. I think that there's still some things that are being worked out here and there. I'm not
well,
sure.
You're going to know pretty soon because our listeners may or may not know Jamie's about to walk through the Fox lot doors. So
yes, tomorrow.
Better find out some good shit.
I know. Oh, well, I'll share anything that they allow me to. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll get it out of you.
I'll never talk to them again if you do. Jamie can't keep anything quiet.
But obviously we'll talk more about this. But we just wanted to kind of get a video out there while the news cycle is still hot. Let us know your comments. Again, there is so much going on. This is just part of a much bigger push. I think maybe this would have gone over better had either the read or the watch been announced before. Because the thing is, here's the other problem, is that they've already announced Resistance, which is what I'm assuming the read part is, because it's an Amanda Ripley tied comic series. Mm-hmm. So like they're not going to do a big drop like they did with Blackout for that. So I'm kind of confused. Maybe there's something we don't know about. But see, now we're doing it again. Now we're being like, well, there could be something new and exciting, and then they're going to be like, oh, it's that comic series you've already known about for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be like, oh, fuck.
I think a good strategy for anyone that's releasing mobile games, say it's a mobile game before you release it. I
agree.
You need to, if you don't want people to be upset, say it's a mobile game. Tell people, say, yes, we are working on something that's probably going to be for the phones, so that there's not this colossal expectation. At the same time, for the sake of balance, fans are hard to please. You go on social media and you can see people bitching more about things than they're being appreciative of.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think especially in the Alien franchise or the Alien fandom, where people are just nervous and people feel like they haven't really had something to kind of believe in and feel excited about in a long time. So every little bit of something, like, maybe it's something that I really can love. I'm the same way. I totally get it. The game thing didn't bother me.
I get it too. I get it too. But the people who are happy with the direction of the franchise as well, who are also like nervous because that keeps getting almost taken away from them. Like a lot of us really want to see what Ridley Scott would do with a third prequel movie, and then it's like constantly like that's getting pulled away and might not happen, and then getting shot down in forums because there's disagreements happening. So there's a lot. Alien fandom is very much on pins and needles. I think
it is.
Everybody's kind of like walking around and afraid about what's coming. And so
And lastly, I'll just say this: I don't know what else is coming yet in terms of a series or whatever, streaming series, all that stuff. The fans, and I'm not just talking about the fans, but I think the audiences need something that from the Alien IP that blows our minds, that gets us all on board, that gets us all going like, oh my God, that's what we need. And whether it's a series, whether it's a film, something like that, something to really take seriously. So we'll see what the future brings.
But the problem is that like that third Ridley Scott movie, if it happens or if it has already happened or if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be that thing,
It could, which
is tough.
I think it has the potential.
I just don't think it.
I think it has the potential to be. Really,
I think that the direction that he's taken things is too specific and too out there and too alienating for people who don't like it.
I disagree, because I think that if they end up going to Origay 6, or Origay, or is it Origay? I don't know.
Origay.
Origay 6.
Acheron. Archeron.
Your Mamaron.
Do you ever notice though in the Alan Dean Foster novelization he says Archeron?
I don't think so. I've never.
'Cause it was from an earlier script version, so there's like, because then they changed it. I don't know why. Probably just dropped an R. But
I just think that now we're going off into other territory, but we're about to quit. I think that Orge 6, that whole setup, could really, really be fascinating. Could really be a truly alien film where it's not just a film with, a beast set loose in a ship or a beast set loose on a space station, where it's really character-driven, character-based, strange things that we're encountering, strange iterations of reproduction, and really building out Daniels as a character and Tennessee as a character. I think it could be the alien film that we all want. It could really be about wonder and set pieces and going into places that remind us of The Derelict or something else. And really, this place.
But you don't think people are going to say, "Oh, it's too much like he's copying"?
No, as long as they don't copy it. You know what I mean? Like they can completely set up a new world that's familiar but different. It can be done. It just needs smart people to do it. So.
Well, and it's funny that I, as somebody who likes the direction of the prequels, I don't think Ridley Scott could do that. Well, I don't think that that's what he wants to do, and I think we see the weaker parts of Covenant as evidence that when he's sort of told to do things by the studio that would make it a little more, appealing to longtime fans, that it kind of falls apart a little bit.
Well, I think we've discussed this briefly, but there's been the notion that Ridley Scott doesn't repeat himself, but I've said this before. He has repeated himself 3 times now. He said people land on planets and go explore derelicts.
But I think that everything else other than those basic plot elements, though, is wildly divergent, though.
I don't think so. In fact, I think that, in Prometheus, you have people looking at and instead of an egg, it's an urn, and something comes out of the urn and it infects someone, and then you have Aurum, and then you have the egg, and then you have all of these same kind of beats, these reflective beats. And I'm not saying all of those things are bad. In fact, I think what Prometheus does with the urns, they kind of throw it on its head a little bit. I thought that was actually pretty genius, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that we should do an episode as part of our Forbidden Planet series on Ridley Scott.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think we should. We did a James Cameron episode for 40 Miles. Let's talk about Ridley Scott and talk because you're right. Some of the beats are eerily similar, but to my mind, they're employed philosophically extraordinarily differently and for very different storytelling reasons. But what's interesting is that they end up kind of in the same places in the story with some of the same things happening as a result of them.
You know what? And what I want to do too is I think I don't know if this would fit into the Forbidden Planet series, but I really want to have an episode where we're talking about a kind of story you could make set within the world of Alien that's different, and how we make that different. Essentially, you and I are a story room right now, and we're hashing that out. That would be great. How do you make a story different? I mean, I've written a long piece that I don't even mind talking about because I don't think nothing's ever going to happen with it. So,
I mean, that episode will be you talking about it and me going, "Whoa, that's a great," because you're the fucking.
No, but I think that we can all.
But it's something that I've thought about quite a bit.
Well, I just think that fandom has this pivot that fandom does, and you see it everywhere, where people just pivot back to what's comfortable, and they don't pivot back, and they don't think, well, what about something new? And they're like, wouldn't it be cool if Queen and another power loader and more Marines and hoorah and blah, 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 blah. Those aren't the answers. The answers aren't to, and in fact, I think some of the blowback that The Last Jedi.
But for a lot of people, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Yeah. Well, for a lot of people, that is the answer. That's the issue, I think, Jamie. I really think we're seeing that more and more. And I think we talk quite a bit about that on our upcoming Alien Queen Roundtable Part 2.
Well,
stay tuned.
There's the whole risk aversion thing that's going on with studios, too.
There is.
A whole nother we can incorporate into that episode, but there's a reason why studios are saying, let's pivot back to the past. Let's go back to something familiar, because there's already a built-in audience. There's a built-in audience for Amanda Ripley. That's why the game is censored.
But there's also a huge part of fandom that will say, like a Force Awakens scenario, that it's too similar, right?
I love the Force Awakens, but I also agree with that.
So do I, but it doesn't bother me that it's too similar, but it does cheapen the artistic value of it to me, even though I really enjoy the movie quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
And but again, as we've talked about a million times, and I got to go pick our kid up from the bus stop, so I got to run. But I think that Alien is a very different story than Star Wars.
Absolutely.
And as Bryant mentioned on our roundtable, Star Wars is sort of about family values and about tradition and about comfort ultimately at the end of the day. So like we kind of want to feel enveloped by it, but Alien is kind of the opposite. It's the antithesis of that, Alien is about negation and darkness and bleakness. And how do you tell a new story that is familiar but also strange and evokes the same unique response as the first film. It's fucking impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite. Yeah. We'll talk
more about it. Thanks everyone for watching. There'll be more news coming up soon. I'm sure we'll be back with you soon.
Yeah. Thanks guys.